Hello and welcome to Real Reviews. My name is Jameson Rabbit, and today I'm joined by a man who fancies himself to be the Alfred of this crew. His name is Mike Roth.
Yes, I like to clean up.
I do some light dusting.
I do some emotional support, but I still get out of your way when you really need
Keep the Batcave clean.
Yep.
Nice. This week we have a couple of movies on the marquee, but don't be afraid, one of them is a huge movie. And we'll get into that.
Both of them are pretty huge,
in
a way.
You're right. You are absolutely right. One of them is really big and kind of fat. And that's the one that we're going to start with this week on the marquee. That is My Big Fat Greek Wedding 2. The sequel, 16 years in the making to the huge success of the first one.
16 years?
16. It was 2000, wow. I believe, when the first one came out. Nia Vardalos, again, writes this one as she did the first one. The first one was one of the biggest independent movie successes of all time. Spawned a TV series which was not a success. And we revisit it now with director Kirk Jones taking it up, and we pretty much bring back the entire cast of the original. We meet them all 16 years later. Nia Vardalos is back as Tula. John Corbett, her husband, Ian. They're still married after the first movie. And we have her parents, Gus and Maria and Aunt Vula, the whole gang. The whole family is there. Oh, Joey Fat One is there. Joey Fat One is there in all his glory. Her brothers Angelo and Nick, just all of them. And her daughter Paris is a big focal point of this movie. And it's basically, we meet them, and Tula is still very much the focal point of her family, trying to be everything to everyone in her family, at the expense of herself, at the expense of her marriage, and really driving her daughter away. Her daughter is a senior in high school, getting ready to decide where to go off to college, and she is smothering her.
Mm-hmm. And this particular teenager is moody already, right. Very goth-like.
Yes.
Really isn't someone who wants to put up with other parents' stuff, kind of.
And, I mean, this movie really focuses on that, any family, no matter how loving they are, can smother you if they don't. And this family smothers you at all times.
Oh, yeah.
And it's very much like the first one. So that's kind of your A story. Your B story is that her parents didn't get their wedding certificate signed way back when, 50 years ago. And so now we have to have the wedding.
Another big fat Greek wedding.
The titular wedding. That's how we get a second wedding in here, is that the parents now are planning a wedding and everything that goes along with that. It's going to be crazy. And in the meantime, you also have the relationship between Tula and Ian, and they're having marital problems. They don't have time to themselves. They never see each other outside of at school or passing each other in the doorway. And so they're starting to get that empty nest feeling too, as their daughter's about to leave. Please don't leave us. I liked some of these scenes. They felt real, like when they go out on a date. And, okay, we can't talk about the kids. All right, what do we talk about? It's tough. It's real. It's kind of interesting. The movie it's a family flick. It's a shell of what the original was.
It has it feels like it should be a family flick, but they do mention sex and all this other stuff. Yeah. So it's not complete family. It's PG-13.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't break any new ground from what the original was. They try to kind of recapture a lot of that, and they recycle a lot of the jokes. And the family really hasn't changed. The person I went to see this movie with said it's almost like they filmed this like the following year after the original and just released it now because nobody really aged that much, which is kind of creepy.
No, but the bad makeup that they put on them, oh boy! I think they put like glue on one of the lady's face just so it would look more stretched out and wrinkly.
Yeah. There's some things I liked in this movie. I like there's a moment. There's a weird kind of background story going through this where her dad Gus is convinced that he's a direct descendant of Alexander the Great, and I'm going to prove it. And this keeps popping its head up throughout the movie. And it felt like a really weird C story to have through here. And there's a time where he's on the computer, and you have old man on the computer segment of everyone trying to help the old man on the computer. I actually laughed. I thought that was pretty funny watching that. Old guy trying to figure out the computer.
A lot of these jokes, you might love Adam Sandler, but it felt like Adam Sandler wrote these. Old man jokes. It was recycled stuff. I've never seen the original, but almost all these jokes are jokes that I've heard maybe 10, 20 years ago. The family, I thought, was extremely annoying.
They're supposed to be.
They are flamboyantly Greek.
Yeah.
They're the kind of people who scream from the street to the homes. They beep the horn instead of going up to the door going, hey, it's time to go. And it's a wonder why the neighbors hate them. But for some reason, the neighbors are the bad people. No.
But
these guys are annoying.
If you go to this part of Chicago, I have friends that are this family.
Oh, boy.
They show the wedding. I was in one of these weddings down in Chicago in a Greek Orthodox church. I was standing up there. That is what this place is. That is that part of Chicago. The Greek part of Chicago is very much this. Houses that are built to look like they're straight out of Greece. Big families that love each other and choke each other out.
Also, another thing I noticed, they all have businesses, but they don't have any customers except for their own family.
Well, if you have a big enough family, you can survive off each other.
Well, I guess.
Customers.
Someone's has a lot of bank in the beginning, though, because eventually it just filters out.
Yeah,
I would assume.
One would assume.
Yeah.
Well, you bring John Stamos and Rita Wilson in to check out your business. That was a little cameo from them in this movie. You know what? I thought the movie was... I actually enjoy the first one as a bit of a guilty pleasure. It's a well-written movie. There's a reason that it was such a huge success. This movie is very much just a shell of that original. But I laughed. It's harmless, fun. Nothing. The stories kind of don't go anywhere. I wish that they would have cut that story about the Alexander the Great thing and given more time to some other things.
Yeah.
But like the relationship between she and her husband, kind of flesh out a little more of that. Something else in there. But it is what it is. I don't know. Nothing to get too worked up over.
I really could not get into this movie at all. I thought it was over-scripted, and everybody was just annoying to me. It was grating. I really...
All right.
But, you're right. It is harmless fun. In the theater, I saw a lot of moms brought their sons to it, and I was like, oh, man, you must not have cleaned your room or something, kid.
Well, ultimately, what did you give My Big Fat Greek Wedding?
I gave it a 1.
That seems punitive.
I did not like this. I will never watch this movie again.
We give 1s to movies that we hate. We give 1s to movies that we hate.
I hate this movie.
That's rough. That seems completely unfair to me. I give this movie 2.5. I think it's right down the middle, average, whatever movie.
Maybe it was just the family itself was just so grating.
I liked because I did feel that some of this stuff was very true about your family and about how as you go through life, you can let things suddenly start to get in the way of relationships and get in the way of your kids and your spouse and whatever. I thought that was fairly well done with that. The rest of the movie was
I'm glad you didn't have the same experience I did.
No, I did not. Moving on, though, to another movie for the weekend. What do you have?
Well, this was a huge movie. If anybody's heard about the Batman vs. Superman, this is a sequel to Zack Snyder's Superman that came out a few years ago. Man of Steel. What you have here is Batman. This takes place at the very end, not after the
concurrent with the end of Man of Steel.
Concurrent, where you have Bruce Wayne, played by Ben Affleck, coming into Metropolis and watching all the devastation. Thousands of people died. One of them was a building that he owned. A lot of people he knew died in this terrible mess. And he becomes a little concerned that maybe Superman is not that great to have all this unwatched power, and also to bring in all these supervillains from outside that is causing more harm than Superman has ever done good so far. And then Superman also doesn't like Batman because, everybody knows Superman's alter ego is Clark Kent, and he's a reporter, and Clark Kent does not like vigilantes in costumes.
Right.
I don't know. I think it's a little hypocritical of him, but we really don't know what's going through Clark's mind. These two end up battling it out.
Because Lex Luthor has played them.
Lex Luthor, played by Jesse Eisenberg. Granted, all these characters are not like the ones that you are used to. If you see Lex Luthor, he's not like this really smart
He's not the businessman.
No, he's not a businessman. He's not in control. He's not that natural-born leader. He's more of a nutty professor type intelligence, where he's extremely brilliant, but he says things that just kind of loses people.
He's maniacal.
Yeah.
He's more of a Joker than a Lex Luthor.
I thought he was more confusing. Joker is entertaining, where this guy was. This Lex
Luthor is not normally like a crazed psychopath.
True.
In most incarnations.
Yeah.
He's much more calculating than this Lex Luthor.
Anyways, on with the plot.
Yes.
This is also Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice. This is the beginning of the Justice League, so they also introduce metahumans, which quickens up the pace so DC could catch up to Marvel like Avengers and add all these superheroes in at once. Granted, we only have cameos by The Flash and Aquaman and Cyborg, but Wonder Woman is somewhat of a big staple. You see her in and out of the movie as a kind of a spy, burglar thing, and then at the end she joins the fight. Yeah. And oddly, Batman and Superman have no idea who she is.
Yeah. This movie is probably the most divisive movie that I've seen in quite a while as far as what people think about it. There's a lot of hate going on out there.
Well, it was a 2 hour and 40-minute movie, so there's a lot of movie you could judge on.
But I mean, this movie, more than any big budget, big blockbuster, tentpole movie, has gotten hate poured on it from people. I think some of it goes a little overboard, but this movie has issues. This movie has problems.
I think if you're really into the franchise and you could catch up on all these Easter eggs and stuff like that, maybe it's more enjoyable. I'm really not out of the loop. I've seen all the superhero movies. I read superhero comics. There was a lot of things that I missed because of Zack Snyder's artistic freedom. I did not recognize the Robin suit because to me it looked all black. I did not recognize the Flash when he came in through the Looney Tunes portal, which I know is a boom tube, but it didn't quite match up to what I envisioned.
Let's talk about Zack Snyder real quick. This movie, more than anything, confirmed everything that I've been saying for a while about Zack Snyder, and I've mentioned it several times in the show that I was very guarded about what I thought this movie was going to be. I thought this movie was going to be a bust because Zack Snyder has yet to prove that he can direct a complete movie. He has yet to make a full movie that doesn't have buts in it. It was good, and this movie proved again that he is a beautiful choreographer. He can frame a beautiful shot. He cannot develop characters. He cannot tell a cohesive story that involves people, that he just wants to get to the action, and that he's more Michael Bay than Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
That he has a rough time, and having him as your chief visionary for the DC universe is a problem. Because he's already at work with Justice League Part 1 right now. So he is the chief visionary of your product. And he hasn't proven anything to me yet. He still has major issues. This movie, I really liked Affleck as Batman. I was surprised. I liked his Bruce Wayne. I liked his brooding Bruce Wayne, this version of Bruce Wayne. And I liked Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. I was very skeptical about her being as Wonder Woman. But
her character really wasn't shining at all.
That's the thing is, everyone comes out saying, I liked Wonder Woman. She was great. But she had about 6 lines of dialogue. She was more a visual component than anything.
Yeah.
So, of course, she's going to shine. She's a visual component in the movie. Zack Snyder can make her look good. The fight is convincing. But there's also a Wonder Woman standalone movie coming out. I still have no idea if she can carry a Wonder Woman movie. Because I haven't seen her do anything yet.
So I'm really hopeful still with Batman. I know Ben Affleck is a good director, and he's really improved as an actor over the years.
Yes.
I'm excited to see Batman. If it explains this movie a little bit. I'm hoping it's a prequel. I'm not sure what it is, but this movie needs so much explaining for me to enjoy it. I had to go home and research.
But you shouldn't have to do homework
to
enjoy a movie.
No, you shouldn't.
And that's what I hate is people are like, well, if you read this and then there's 30 minutes of deleted scenes that are coming out on the Blu-ray, that'll explain it. I shouldn't have to wait for the Blu-ray to come out to explain the movie that I sat in the theater for 2 hours and 36 minutes.
Yeah.
And then, but wait, in 6 months we'll explain some other things about it. No, this movie had major issues. And look, if I have to see Batman's parents die ever again in a movie, I'm going to flip out. Because every time it's a Batman movie, I don't need to see the pearls hit the pavement.
No.
Ever again. Can we just take it as understood? Batman's parents died, okay? Everyone in this movie has mommy and daddy issues. Superman has mommy and daddy issues. Batman has mommy and daddy issues. Lex Luthor has mommy and daddy issues. It's ridiculous that that's their motivation, all three of them. That's just lazy writing. Because that's not what the characters are in real life.
I would think instead of showing Batman's parents die, which they do with every movie, Gotham, both reincarnations of the Batman movie franchise,
Right.
they should have explained why Batman all of a sudden is cool with torture and murder.
He's murdering people in this movie.
He is murdering.
Shooting people in the face.
Out of 4 things that you know about Batman, it's his suit, it's his gadgets. He doesn't kill people, and he's got tons of money.
He's shooting people in several things. Now, some of them, we have a lot of dream sequences in this movie, and a lot of foreshadowings, a lot of things that are given to visions,
Yeah.
I guess. And
Premonitions, almost.
Yeah, and there's shootings in those, but okay, it's a dream. But there's also times in the real world where he is just shooting people with a gun. That's not what Batman does.
And one of the dreams, it felt like it was foretelling the future, and you had this weird Mad Max world, but it never tells you you're going into a dream. It's just kind of a surprise. You're like, what's going on? And then right after the dream, you're further confused with that flash scene coming out of the Looney Tunes.
Because it feels like Zack Snyder just took parts of things that he loved in the comics and shoved them all together and didn't worry about making a thematic thread to tie anything together. So you're left going, wait, is this even real world? Is this a dream? Is this a vision?
I have to admit, at the end, I was getting so mentally tired of all this information without entertainment being shoved at me that I couldn't keep track of what things are going. This fight is supposed to be spectacular.
Yeah.
And occasionally I'd find myself mentally dozing off going, what's happening?
Right.
And then as I'm trying to figure out what was happening, something else is happening. And it's like tiresome.
So there are things I like in this movie. Like I mentioned, I liked Batman. I liked Wonder Woman.
Yes.
I liked the idea I like the concept of the very idea of Superman being put on trial because it's humans' insecurity that is leading them to doubt and fear Superman. That just the insecurity of humans of, oh no, someone's stronger than us, we can't have that. And the way they're manipulated, I like that, but it's only hinted at for a couple minutes and then that's just totally abandoned. I thought that was a really interesting story.
How they implemented it was absolutely terrible with this Bruce Wayne's ex-employee kind of doing stuff. And it just felt weird. And then, like you said, it came to an end. And then we never revisited that whole idea.
And like you'd mentioned, I like the real-world implications of superhero fights. That's rarely ever tackled. And that was one of the complaints about Man of Steel is, well, they're killing thousands of people. We just leave that. So this movie addresses that. There are real-world implications to it.
Yeah.
But then also, to open the movie, for all those of you who are upset about Superman killing Zod, to open this movie, the first thing you're going to see from Superman is him killing a guy.
Yeah.
He's going to blast a guy through several brick walls. And that man is dead.
And also other people are rumored to have died through that. He has this Superman. The past Supermans, he has humanity. He loves humanity. He wants to save everyone if he can. This one, he feels selfish, like, I'm doing this because I can. And then they did a throwback to his dad. They're like, you're becoming the man your dad wanted. No, in the first movie, your dad kept on telling you, stay in the shadows, let people die. He was actually angry with Clark because he saved a busload of kids. That was the only thing I really didn't like about the first Superman movie was Clark's dad. And then they bring him out in this movie as being the hero that Superman is living up to.
It's like, hero's cake while the horse is thrown. What are you doing, Pa Kent? The thing is there's strong imagery in this movie that I really liked, but so much of the characters are bad. Lex Luthor was really. Jesse Eisenberg is not good in this role.
No.
I did not care for him. Jeremy Irons I thought was fine as Alfred. It's a different Alfred. He's almost like if you looked at the Nolan Batman movies, he was like Alfred and Lucius Fox together. He's the brains behind the operation almost.
I've been noticing with anybody who does Alfred, it is a different one every single time. Sometimes he's old and just kind of going around. Sometimes he, like in Gotham, he's like, oh no, I'm going to teach you how to fight. Yeah. And the other ones, he's like, kind of in the middle.
Yeah, I like this one. This is a decent version. The problem is the Superman end of this movie was really bad. Superman was written really poorly in this movie. Yeah. The Lois and Clark was written horribly in this movie.
There's no character development at all. And
because you only see Clark for about 6 minutes in this movie.
Yeah.
There's nothing between them. That's a huge fabric of the DC universe is Lois and Clark.
Even in their huge romantic scene, it really kind of failed to show any chemistry. So,
I really did not like this Superman. It felt like he was whiny.
Yeah.
You say selfish. Looked like he was on the verge of tears throughout most of the movie.
Yeah.
And getting his butt kicked on a daily basis in this movie.
He's
on the
not very
regular,
good.
people are throwing him around.
And his motivations were really bad, almost hypocritical.
Everyone's motivations, though, were just the weakest.
Yeah.
We can't get into some of the things that we have the biggest issues with because we are saving, trust me, we are saving a ton of spoilers out of this.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the biggest issues I have come in the final act of this movie.
One of the hugest issues is actually a meme I've seen a couple of different times.
Yeah.
So stay off Facebook if you haven't seen that.
Yeah, I have a huge issue with the resolution because, okay, I'll just say this. You know that Superman and Batman are not going to fight to the death in this movie forever because ultimately they form the Justice League.
Yeah.
And you know Batman and Superman are in the Justice League together. So at some point there is a conflict resolution. The conflict resolution in this movie was horrendous.
Yeah.
It was laughable how he decided to come up with this.
And again, with the artistic style, Doomsday, which
Yes.
is in the, so I don't
We
feel
all know
like it's
Doomsday's the bad guy.
At first, he looks exactly like one of the cave trolls
Right.
from Lord of the
Yes.
Rings. You could take this guy out,
Yep.
put him in Lord of the Rings, and no one would know the difference.
And he's pulling King Kong moves, climbing up the side of buildings, like just hanging off a tower. Looked like it was straight out of 1933.
And some
Ridiculous.
of the wire works. Again, Batman in this one seems to have superpowers. He has these premonitions. He's able to see the future, I'm guessing, from his dreams because he really believes in his dreams. So I'm assuming he has something to back it up.
Yep.
He also has superhuman strength. Even when he didn't have his suit on, he's taking crates and he's throwing it over his head like crazy. And you could tell it's all on wires, too. They're beeline straight.
I did enjoy that Batman versus the Thugs fight because
Oh,
that's the Batman fight I've been wanting to see for 7 movies, is him just pounding guys in the face because this Batman can move a little bit as opposed to the other ones that couldn't turn their head or swing their arms very well. Once he got out of that big clunky suit,
Yeah.
which was just ridiculous.
But
He was actually smashing guys in the face, and I enjoyed it. It was a little ridiculous, but yeah, I enjoyed that part.
he should have been better, though, because in the beginning, the first time you see Batman, he is just a wiry little skittering around, and you're like, wow, this Batman's going to be fast, this is going to be dangerous, and then he got bumped down to what other Batmans kind of do.
This is an older Batman. He's been doing it for 20 years.
True.
You know,
Well, he
he's
should have
aged.
never have been able to do that first scene.
We
then.
see the we see him in we get a training sequence. Batman hitting a tire with a sledgehammer.
That's
working
fun.
out. I was waiting for like you're the best around to start
Yeah.
playing in the background while he's doing this. Like, what are you doing? I was waiting for him to do the Rocky, just run up a hill. Doomsday!
There's a lot of things that reminded me of other movies. Unfortunately, it wasn't like good things about other movies. One of the things I wanted to mention, remember in The Matrix when there was like this heist in the power building, but for this to work, they also had a video game, and both the video game and the movie were supposed to get together in order for you to understand the whole thing. If you didn't play the video game, this whole movie felt like that little heist scene where they're closing down the power plant. Everything was short. It felt like you didn't have a good enough information. Yeah, there were some impressive explosions and stuff, but what am I watching?
Exactly. What you just said is exactly what I felt for 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
What am I watching? Why are we doing this? Why are we trying to fit so much into one movie? It felt like someone who didn't even understand the characters. And just like, we can do this, we can do that. And then I heard this happen in one of the comics, and I'm going to do this too.
Yeah.
And it didn't work. There was no cohesive thread in this movie that made me care about the characters, that made me... It was ridiculous how it was written.
I mentioned this to you a couple of times. To me, the whole movie kind of felt like watching the last Harry Potter movie without seeing any of the other Harry Potters before that.
Yeah. The thing is, there's been this impossible standard that's been set for superhero movies.
Yeah.
We've seen some of the best as far as team-up movies. You know, you've seen your Avengers. You've seen your Guardians of the Galaxy that introduces characters that you've never heard of, introduces them and makes you care about them and makes it entertaining, makes it fun. We've seen amazing superhero movies, and not all of them can clear the bar. Not every superhero movie can clear the bar. I think a lot of people assume that this is, just because it's Batman versus Superman, that it's automatically going to be great. You put the two of them in there, automatically this is going to be a great movie. And this movie failed to reach the bar. Unfortunately, they can't all be great, and this one was very much not great.
I'm actually a little disappointed. I'm a little scared. It's because
Yeah.
I like DC, but lately, not just in their movie universe, but in their comic book universe also, they've been making huge changes, and they're not clicking with their audience. I mean, I would hate to see a day where just DC is nothing because of all their...
They're struggling, and I don't like the direction they're going in. Now, having said that, the movie made a ton of money. The movie's
Yes, it
breaking
did.
records, made $400 million worldwide opening weekend. So they're, at least that means that they're not going to start shutting things down and start rescheduling the schedule to, we got to move Black Adam up to get The Rock in here sooner. They're not panicking because they're making money.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully that they figure it out somehow as they keep making them. But right now, this is a rough start.
Problem with a movie like this is everybody's going to see it because it's
Right.
Batman versus Superman. But now that they've seen it, are they going to be excited to see anything more? Or do
Exactly.
they're going to feel like they're getting burned? And even if the next Batman, which hopefully will be great because you got a good
But
director
that's
and good actor.
several years down the line,
It's,
though.
well,
I mean, that's you still have Justice League and Wonder Woman coming out before that. There's a lot in the way, and if there's two more bad ones,
yeah.
I mean, what do we have then? And this has kind of been my complaint. I've been kind of standing on the hilltop yelling like, what if superheroes start bombing? It's gonna happen at some point.
Yeah.
The bubble's gonna burst. I think I talked about it on this show. The bubble's gonna burst at some point. Is this the first one? We get a couple of these. Where are we going from here? Because we're still scheduled for the next 8 years.
Well, the bubble bursts after they start making bad movies.
Right.
Now, we've been predicting bubble bursts for a while, and
But-
the Oscars last year were saying, no, we got to stop making it, and then they just made better and better ones. We saw Deadpool. Deadpool is
Right.
one of my favorite
Right.
movies of the year.
Well, you have this one. You have Suicide Squad coming out later this year. What if Suicide Squad's terrible too?
Well, they're also talking about how they made mistakes, and they're shoving millions of
And
dollars
they're
in it.
reshooting right now.
Yeah.
That's not good.
That's
man.
not good.
That's not a good thing. So, anyways, I'll give my score. So you went first. I gave this movie 2 stars.
Yeah?
2 stars.
It's
It's not as terrible as people say it is, but there are a lot of issues. It's a bit of a mess. I watched it a couple of times. It was actually better the second time, but not by much. So that's take it for what it is.
I did some more research. I think the second time I watched this movie, I may give it higher score, but right now, as it sits, it's 1.5.
Yep.
I'm hoping other movies or the extended version will change my mind because I really do want to love this universe so much.
Yeah, it is what it is. No throwback this week. We kind of ran long. Our throwback was going to be Batman and Robin, a movie on par with this movie.
Yeah.
Take that for what it is. At least that one's fun.
Yeah,
That one is a cult classic. It's the best terrible movie I know.
As it stands, I'd rather watch Batman versus Robin because it's shorter. A lot shorter.
Exactly. So go out and watch 1997's Batman and Robin, the Joel Schumacher. Oh, it's got the classic Mr. Freeze, Schwarzenegger. Everybody
and
chill
Bane,
out.
everybody's favorite version of Bane.
Yeah. What a crazy. Gotham is a crazy glow stick rave in that movie. But that was going to be our throwback, so go check that out. Let's take a look at what is coming soon, though. The weekend of April 8th, we have 3 movies. The first one is the new Melissa McCarthy comedy, question mark. That's The Boss, with her and Kristen Bell.
Great sandwich at Cops. If
Ooh,
you
I
ever
do
had
love
the boss.
That's like a 5-pound sandwich. The second movie is a strange movie, Hardcore Henry. A movie, I've been explaining it. It looks like Crank, shot entirely in first person.
I'm looking forward to this.
I don't know if I can take 90 minutes of it, though. Because I get a headache after about 3.5 minutes of that trailer.
Think of the end
It's
of
all
Doom
POV.
and how much you love Doom.
Nope.
No. I'm looking forward to it.
And the final movie is a movie that I am highly anticipating, is the new Jake Gyllenhaal movie, Demolition.
Yeah.
Jake Gyllenhaal loses his wife, and he doesn't know how to deal with it. He struggles mightily. And his boss, Chris Cooper, tells him sometimes you just got to demolish stuff to repair it. And
It looks
really good.
interesting.
Yeah.
Next week we should have an interesting show.
We will we'll see what we have going on next week. We got a whole bunch of stuff going on because in theaters it's a little dicey at the moment. So we're gonna
Travel.
Yeah, we're gonna do some get creative for next week. But before we go, we have to thank our sponsor, of course, Marcus Theaters, the Palace in beautiful Sun Prairie. Thank you for sponsoring our show. We always appreciate a beautiful dream lounger to watch our movies in, even if they're not so good. If you want to find more from us, you can do so on Twitter and Facebook. Go to at Real Reviews TV. That'll get you everything you need. But until next week, my name is Jameson.
I'm Mike Roth.
Thanks for watching.